This holiday, of course, marking the unofficial start to summer. That means more boats out on the water. And with last week being National Safe Boating Week and this weekend being about Big Boating Weekend, we caught up with the executive director of the National Safe Boating Council to help you stay safe. Peg, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with the big picture. What is National Safe Boating Week? Why is it so important that we kind of recognize this week as we head into summer?
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for having me on today. So since 1958, the week prior to Memorial Day has been designated National Safe Boating Week. And as you said, a lot of people, it's our official kickoff for summer. Also that official kickoff for our boating season. So we know in Michigan, many of your boaters have had those boats in winter storage, right? So as they're taking those out, we just want to remind everybody to inspect your boating safety gear, inspect your equipment, inspect that boat, and let's don't forget the trailer. You want to make sure you inspect that trailer as well before you put them back in the water.
Yeah, I mean, we've had it in storage for a while. We had a pretty brutal winter here in West Michigan, so I would imagine that's going to be pretty key.
Absolutely, especially if you didn't check them when you took them out of the water last year, too. Now, when we say boaters, that doesn't necessarily just mean the people that are powering the boats, correct? We want to account for all sorts of people that are on the boat as well as different vessels.
Yeah, absolutely. What's a vessel? A power boat, a kayak, a canoe, a stand-up paddleboard. Kind of a really simple rule is if it floats and you're using it for transportation, it's considered a vessel. And as the operator of that vessel, so you're the powerboat operator, for example, you are responsible for yourself and all your passengers. And there's some really simple things you can do to make sure that you stay safe. Boater education for yourself, for example, would be really important. And always making sure you wear that life jacket. That really is that vital piece of boating safety gear that can save your life. Put it on yourself, put it on all your passengers. It really is the safest way to protect yourself and all your loved ones you have out with you.
Yeah, okay, so let's go right into the life jacket question because it is extremely important. And we actually have a graphic to show everybody at home about these personal flotation devices, as the Michigan's website calls it. But we know them as life jackets. So what should people know about this, and what should people be keeping in mind as we get into boating season on the life jacket front?
Yeah, and we can't say it enough. It really is the most critical piece of safety gear. Always recommend that you wear it. And the statistics really support that. 75% of boating fatalities are drownings. And 87% of those victims were not wearing a life jacket, which is just startling when we think about how many of those fatalities were preventable, right? I kind of try to think about a life jacket like wearing a seatbelt when you're driving a vehicle. And let's say you're driving down the road and somebody is coming out of nowhere and about to hit you. You wouldn't have time to think, you know what, I think I'll put my seatbelt on. I'm just about to get in an accident, right? The same thing happens on a boat with a life jacket. Things can happen in seconds, and there's really just not time to go find that stowed life jacket, put it on, and then be prepared for impact or the wave that's coming out of nowhere and throwing you overboard. So just wear the life jacket. Manufacturers have come out with just so many different options for a comfortable life jacket. Inflatable life jackets are great options now. And I promise you, if you put an inflatable life jacket on, within a matter of 10-15 minutes, you'll forget you're even wearing it until you really need it. So especially in Michigan, you have something like cold water immersion, which we don't have down in Florida. But if you're out enjoying a 70 degrees or 80 degree air temperature, the water could still be 50 or 60 degrees. So if you fall into that water, hypothermia can set in very quickly. Wearing that life jacket not only can prevent drowning, but really protect you in a cold water immersion situation.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because that was actually one of our top stories this morning as we head into Memorial Day. Because I'll be honest, the temperature in Lake Michigan right now is pretty chilly out there.
Yeah, still in the 50s, and that's a shock to the system when you're jumping in on a hot late spring, early summer day. Now, beyond life jackets, what are some of the must-have safety items that boaters should be keeping on board at all times?
Yeah, another one for power boaters is that engine cutoff switch, and sometimes you'll see the acronym ECOS, ECOS, that stands for engine cutoff switch. And that's that red lanyard that is attached to the ignition switch. And you either want to attach that to your life jacket or belt buckle. What that does is if the boat operator is displaced from the helm for any reason, that lanyard will pull away from that ignition switch and it'll stop the boat. So this prevents a runaway boat situation. The last thing we want is for a boat operator to be thrown overboard and then the boat to go what we call the death spiral. So it'll just keep spinning around and around, and most of the times the boat operator is in the center of that. So it can be a very deadly situation and potential for propeller strikes. Other safety gear to think about, signaling devices, which could be as simple as an air horn or a very loud whistle. Flares, very important. And some people are not aware that we now have electronic flares, which have a very bright light that flashes in an SOS pattern. And they are U.S. Coast Guard approved. And another good thing about them is that they never expire. A little bit more expensive, but certainly an alternative to think about.
Yeah.
Two more things I would recommend are beacons, personal locator beacons, and the emergency position beacon for your boat, which we call an EPIRB.
Okay, yeah, some things to think about. And back to those electronic flares, are those reusable? Because that sounds pretty interesting there. That's something people might want to think about.
They absolutely are, yes. They are reusable, and like I said, they never expire.
Now, is there any kind of formal training or certification that you may recommend, especially for boaters or even lifelong boaters that might just be a bit rusty? Like, I got my boater's license at 10 years old. Is that still good enough, or do we need more training?
Right. So every state has different boating laws. In Michigan, your law is that if anybody was born on or after July 1st, 1996, that is operating a motorboat with horsepower greater than 6, which is just a pretty small engine, you're going to need to have that boating safety card, and that could be obtained through a classroom environment or an online course. Also, you have a different law in Michigan for a PWC, a personal watercraft, and that is a little longer. So anyone born after December 31st, 1978 will need that. Obviously, we recommend boater education for everyone, and take that extra step and get some on-water skills training. That's voluntary, but we always say that a confident boater is a more safe boater. So especially if your boat's been in storage for 6-7 months, maybe just get a captain to go out with you and do some hands-on skills training.
Yeah, always a good thing to keep brushed up on those boating skills. You know, we've been talking a lot about boats. I know we've talked about kayaks and things, but what about jet skis or sea-doos? You know, I know that we're going to see a lot of those out on our lakes here. Can you offer any safety advice when it comes to those?
Yeah, so they kind of fall under the category of a PWC, a personal watercraft, and some boaters kind of refer to them as the mosquitoes of the waterway. So you know, they kind of can just skirt in and out of small areas. Sometimes they like to ride the wake of a boat. Just be aware that there are certain things. You know, you need to wear your life jacket for sure, and that's a law in almost every state when you're operating a PWC. Also, that ECOS lanyard that I talked about. That is a requirement in most states as well. If you fall off of that, you want to make sure you stop that PWC. A lot of those are rented. So people on vacation. And when I talk about people on vacation, sometimes I say people shut off half their brain when they're on vacation. So try not to do that. Pay attention to your surroundings. Have a little bit of awareness about navigation aids, but definitely you want to stay away from other power boaters and slow down when you see paddlecraft. Somebody canoeing or kayaking, you don't want to create a big wake for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any advice for boaters who may encounter other dangerous boat drivers? I know, especially on holiday weekends, you tend to get people out there that are not often out there all year long or all season long, and accidents seem to be a bit more frequent.
Yeah, so the federal requirements is that every boater do everything they can to avoid a collision. And we haven't mentioned this yet, but boating under the influence is the leading contributing factor for fatalities. So, stay hydrated on the water, but let's save the alcohol for when we get back to land. But yeah, really just being aware of where other boaters are, maintaining a 360 visual awareness at all times, and assign people on your boat to do that as well. You keep a lookout in this area, you keep one in this area, you see another boat, give me a holler, let me know somebody's headed my direction. Very important. Just being an aware boater. Like I said, get some of that education, and let's have a beautiful, perfect day on the water this weekend, which means that we're all being safe.
Yeah, I want to ask you about weather because, you know, we could run into a number of weather conditions. I know where you're at, there's you know, you guys run into pop-up showers every now and again there. We run into some pop-up showers and storms too along the lake as well. Can you talk about weather and any weather we might encounter and what we might want to look out for if we're boating?
Yeah, you know, the weather, that's one thing that can change so rapidly, especially in coastal environments or out on the lake. So, you know, as part of your boat preparedness, is following that float plan, letting somebody know where you're going, and checking that weather, especially in areas like Florida or coastal environments, or if you're around a big lake. The weather can change though, so check the weather before you go out on the water, but then also check it again throughout the day. You know, visually looking around you, just seeing if there's new clouds coming in or something like that. But also many apps available to check that weather as well. And here's a really important part about weather: heed that warning. We do know that sometimes, you know, it's a Saturday, it's your day off, and gosh darn it, I don't care if it's going to rain, I'm still taking my boat out, right? So that's a big part of boating safety, is just heed that warning, you know, pay attention to our meteorologist, and if they're giving us some dangers for the weather, just, you know, pick a different day to go boating.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. I think we've all done it before, taken the chance out on the water. Hopefully the storm misses us, but it's never fun when you get caught in it.
No.
So heeding the warning is certainly necessary. Now, finally, where can people go to learn more and get connected to resources like a safety checklist, training, any updated regulations?
Yeah, so everything's on our website, the National Safe Boating Council, and so that's safeboatingcouncil.org. You can get plenty of free resources. We also have a boatoncourse.com, which is a free video series. You can pick your modality, whether you're a paddler or a power boater, and watch a whole video series, and just brush up on your skills, like you said earlier, even if you're a lifelong boater.
Yep, always keep those safety tips in mind. And of course, you can find more information on boating safety on our website and of course their website too.